Yo, what is up, guys? I just got off a shift right now. Super long shift. Luckily, it's Friday night. We're back again in the studio at 11 p.m. I've just been on the internet a lot, just looking at type beats, and I come across a lot of new artists and stuff. And I always find myself going back to the same type of sound. It's like that Toronto Drake kind of Marvin's Room kind of introspective sound. We could argue two of the best rappers going head to head in this generation, Drake and Kendrick, who's the better rapper. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just talking about the production. So who I'm really addressing here exactly is 40. There's just something about like that overcast kind of like gloomy running through the six with my woes kind of vibe. And it just speaks to me. Maybe that's my high school emo side coming out into the R&B part of the world. But yeah, I really like that sound, and so I know you guys have been tuning in for a while. I've been wanting to make a type beat channel, and so I feel like I'm gonna start somewhere with music that I like. That music that comes to me more readily than trying to force myself to make trendy poppy stuff. And so I watched this documentary with 40 talking about this minimalistic approach to production. And he said that all the instruments in the song were purposeful, but they were a little bit muted, and maybe the top end was a little bit rolled off so that Drake's vocals could shine through. And because I feel like nothing is really overdone, or there's not too much going on. Because I came from an EDM background where I was producing a lot of that. And so I was used to just putting layers and layers of synths on top of each other. And, those Swedish house producers just stack stuff and they just crush stuff. And like dubstep producers like Skrillex just put as much sound together. And yeah, so I feel like with that sound, I feel like 40 single-handedly created a type of sound for that generation of that, late 2000s, all the 2010s kind of sound. I was like going through a bunch of type beats and I came across this new artist called Karri, and he's from the NorCal. And so I can see like a lot of his sounds kind of like feels like the vibe up there where it's like that overcast kind of like chill, more mellow vibe. So I really liked his new EP. It was called Late Night Slider EP. So I've been playing that back over and over again, just analyzing the sounds, and I came across a lot of the same sounds that 40 uses. And so, yeah, today we're going to get into trying to emulate that sound with all the VSTs that I have installed on Ableton right now. And I got a few samples from Splice that kind of have that vibe that we're going for. All right, so I've got my favorite respace and I've got the sample going. Let's record a bass line. Okay, now that I got my bass and my sample going, let's record some pads over it. All right, so I'm just going to trim this up a little bit. All right, so for hi-hats, I like to, click and drag splice samples. So what I usually do is I just get these splice loops, and to make it my own, I just chop it up in the slicer. And that way, I can kind of use those variations that are already in the loop, but have it in my own state. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, those first three, and then there's that part. So I kind of want my own layout of this. So what I can do is I can slice this up and break these individual parts up and make it my own variation of this loop. So I'm not just like copying exactly what the slice loop is. And sometimes I have like really long 16 bar like phrases, and I want some variation, you know, instead of just taking the splice loop and just looping that for 4 bars for the whole 16 bars of, say, a whole verse, for example. So we're going to do that right now. Wow. Okay. I'm pretty satisfied with this. So yeah, the first part was just, man, sometimes when you make a song and you start off with like the bass line and the chord progression, you don't really get the rhythm part aspect to it. And then sometimes when you add the sample in after, it just doesn't really fit, you know what I mean? And so that's why I'm like, you know what? Just start with the sample, the vocal samples first, and then you add the beat and everything else around it afterwards. It starts to make more sense because when you start making all the stuff first, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me, you know? Get the samples first instead of making the song and then trying to fill in the samples afterwards, because it doesn't fit. I don't know if that's just the way my workflow is, because I used to do a lot of like EDM production and I did a lot of remixing. So I'd have the acapellas of the songs and I would make the song after it. But yeah, I'm really satisfied with this because the first part was okay. It was kind of mid. But yeah, the second part was tight. That was tough, man. It was pretty good. But yeah, anyways, this is my Karri type beat. Let me know what you think in the comments.